So this is the Ancient Greeks Year 5 knowledge mat. It's all the knowledge in our class that we need to know about ancient Greeks. We have this bar at the side, which is all the words we might encounter on our Greek journey through education, and it tells us all about it, like some gods, Zeus, and some temples and philosophy. And there's also prior knowledge, like sticky knowledge about ancient Greece. It tells you about what the ancient Greek invented, like the theatre, because they loved watching plays. Most cities had a theatre. And the prior knowledge is like, know that the lives of rich people were different from that of poor people. And where is Greece? Greece is relatively hot, and most hot countries are in Mediterranean, but I think this is in Athens. Like Greece is in just below. I think it's just below Romania, and what is it? I can't remember that. But you can know about the link between the ancient Greeks and the modern Olympics, because the ancient Greeks didn't invent the Olympics, so they could. So they had these. They could javelins. They also had chariot racing, and the funny thing is they did it like naked. But now in the ancient Greeks they had that wear clothes. It just surely because they did the ancient Greeks, they're probably very hot tourist tradition. And that's the Year 5 knowledge mat. Just all the knowledge we need to know, because the teachers ask us questions, and once in a while, and we read this so we can get our brain working about the ancient Greeks. Okay, so here is, so first we needed to learn about the ancient Greeks and where was it? Because the ancient Greeks, it's a big island with lots of mountains on the inside. So what we learnt was the transport and how did they move around, and where most of the cities were. So it has mountains through the centre, so they don't really do most of their trading on the land because of the mountains, and it's going to be very hard to pass by. But they took attention to the sea, the Aegean Sea, so they could drive around, and we learnt about how did they trade and their transport throughout the water, and they have these islands, and we had to pinpoint if you had an island, if you wanted to make your own city, where would it be? Would it be close to the land, by the mountains, or would it be close to the sea? And I think, in my opinion, it should be close to the sea, because they have more shipping and they can move around on the boats. And they had to fill in all these different questions to get right, to see if we get right. So if we were to be into Athens, we would know where to go, so we would know what the best suitable place would to be in ancient Greece. And next, we learnt about the evidence we've got in the past about ancient Greece. It's the ancient Greece timeline. So it goes all the way from 2200 BC to 146 BC, where the Romans took over. So we got the first one, which is the first Minoan civilization developed on the island of Crete. We basically got the sheet, we needed to cut it out and stick it in. So we got all of these sheets, and we stuck it in the right order by colours. So we had to find out, because there's a sheet of colours that we had to write down and to find which colours were in the right era. So in 776 BC, they had the Olympics, which is symbolised by running. But the most trickiest part is the 1100 BC to 800 BC. It's called the Dark Ages because historians do not have any clues about what happened. And the next one is, how do we know? So we each gotten our own picture of a pot, and we had to look at the pictures of the pots to see what was on it. The questions, we had to try and write about 6 questions about what were they doing in the picture and how does this relate to the ancient Greek life that we know. So they had some pictures of chariots and some soldiers, and each child got a different one. So we just had to try and find out what did they do in this picture. So it's got some chariots and some soldiers. So I think it was a chariot that was carrying weapons for soldiers. And on to the next page, it's going to tell us about, back to the country of Athens, but it's going to tell us about all the cities. So there's a bunch of points on it, and we have to try and find out which one was on it. And we also find the pros and cons of Athens and Sparta, because Athens, it was a really smart country, but only boys were allowed to go to school. And Sparta, boys and girls were allowed to go to school, but they didn't learn about knowledge, they learned it about strength. So Sparta was strong, but Athens was smart. So yes, we've got the pros and cons, and we found out that Sparta was near land, but Athens was next to water. So and they were in a very big. They had wars a lot, or battles, because they weren't fond of each other. And the only time they didn't fight each other was if another country came to attack. They would team up to attack that country. But after that, they just fight each other. And on to the next one, we learned about Alexander the Great, because Alexander the Great was one of the most best rulers, and had one of the biggest they had an empire that he was trying to conquer the world. So he was a conqueror, but he did get to conquer. I think it was 8 countries, but he didn't get the last one because it was really big. So, but he did take down all the countries, and I think that was it was Egypt, France, because his story of him conquering all these countries spread out for so long, and to all the countries, and we still know him today because he conquered so much countries. And we had to write, we were given these pictures of evidence to tell us how, and we had to label them to see what these pictures, little, because there was I think some paintings, a stone, a medallion, and a statue of him, and we had to find out where is Alexander in these pictures, and what did he do in these pictures, which country did he conquer, because this one has riding a horse and this one's riding an elephant, so judging by maybe being hot weathers or in India. So that's that. Oh, and in this one we had to colour in all the countries that he conquered. So he conquered Egypt, Macedonia, Persia, and most of India. So he started off, and he also named one of the cities after him because he conquered it. It was in Egypt now, and it's still called this today. I think it's Alexandria. And yes, he started off next to Persia, and then he went to Macedonia, then Egypt, and then he went to India. And he didn't conquer all of it, but he conquered all the armies in it. He destroyed all the armies. But since India is so big, he didn't get to do all of it. And this is the one. I think we did this a few days before Dark Week Day, and it was about all the stuff we did about what do we have to do during the Greek Olympics. So it starts off with the swearing in ceremony at day 1 to day 2 to day 3 to day 4 and day 5, where they a procession of winners and celebrations, and we had to write what would happen of each of these days. I'm given lists, and we had to colour in each ones for each days and each activities. So green was religious activities, pink was sporting activities, and yellows was social entertainment. So social entertainment was if they would party and party, and the sporting activities was the Olympics. The religious activities was when they go to the altar and pray to Zeus and tell Zeus that they're going to join the Olympics. And in the end, they're saying that had to always go to Zeus and give him offerings and to show banners. And on this one, it's the so we were giving a bunch of questions. Historian asked, what does the evidence show? So we were giving all the cities, and then we were giving a bunch of questions, and then what does this evidence show? And then on the end, we had to write, could this be true? Is it likely? Is it unlikely? Or could be true? And so was it true or likely or not, or unlikely? So the first one was, did they really used to be a city called Troy across the water from Greece? Because I don't think Troy is here today, but we had to know for sure, because in most war movies they had Troy in it. So and also there is a lot of evidence to support Troy, because in most of pictures and a lot of evidence from back then in the ages, they had battles, and there's a city called Troy. So I'm assuming Troy was a city back then. So they were likely. And then the next question was, did Spartan king's wife and treasure really get taken to Troy? Because when Troy, because I think the little kid of Troy, the son of the king of Troy, went to take one of the, I think, Athenians' wife or daughter, because because he was given a golden apple, and he had to give the golden apple to one god, and the one god said that if you give me the golden apple, then I'll let the beautifulest woman in the world be in love with you. And then he gave her the golden apple. So then the Athenians, I think wife or daughter, was the beautifulest woman, so he went to take her because they both loved each other. And then he went to go back, but then the Athenians were really angry, and all the friends came, and all the Athenians' friends came up and started attacking Troy until they could get their wife back. And there were also how to get the daughter, and also how to get the daughter back, and how to get into Troy. And that's how I'm sure most people know this. The wooden horse story, the really enormous wooden horse. And they had a big wall with a gate, so they had to try and find out a way. And yes, and then once they got in, they destroyed it by fire, and then they got a door back, I'm assuming. Because these are mostly just judged by evidence. And the next one was a child's life in ancient Greece. We were each given a card of a child's life, and we had to write down what did they do. So what did they eat? Were they rich? Were they poor? And these were actually, I think, real children real children judging. They found evidence of this child, and we tried to write what did they do in their life. So this one says the food he ate, the clothing, the entertainment, and the education. and he had to draw little pictures and write from his fact file or the evidence, say what did he do, how did he learn, what toys did he play with, what food did he eat, and what clothing did he wear. And on this one, we went around. They put a bunch of I think when we were working, I think Mr. Young came out and stuck these little sheets all around the yard, and we had to go up and write all the legacies down, because on each of these sheets it had the legacy on it of what do we have now that the ancient Greeks invented, like measuring shapes and prime numbers for maths, and the study of astronomy, entertainment, language and culture, because they invented the alphabet, and also philosophy, and for sport they made the Olympics, which was the 200-meter run, the Olympics, work out at the gym, and that was the legacies, most of them. So we had to just find all the legacies in the yard, and for them legacies we had to we had a clipboard to write them all on, and then we came back in and stuck it in. And the next one was what was the most important things that the Greeks invented. So we had a ladder. Everyone's was different, from the most important, number 1, to the least important, which was number 6. And these are all the most important things that the Greeks invented. Because this person wrote maths, shapes, but in my opinion, I think the second best would be alphabet, because then we couldn't talk, we couldn't write words, and we also wrote the least important ancient Greek legacy for me is a theatre, because although it is very significant and it means we can watch movies and programs, if we didn't have it, it wouldn't matter. But in my opinion, I guess it would, because then we wouldn't have to express our feelings. And yes, that's it. And then after that, I think a few days after that, because it was the end of our topic, we had a Greek day. We all had to come in Greek costumes, and in our Greek costumes, we all made our own teams. It was Sparta. I was in Athens. There was Delphi and Corinth. There was 4 of them teams, and each of us were on a team, and it was PE on that day. So Phil, we had the discus throwing, the 200-meter run, the jump, and the long jump, and chariot racing. But we didn't use actual horses. We just got skipping ropes around. So 2 people, one person put the skipping rope around their waist, and then you just skipped along, and we had to see which one was the first. And in the afternoon, we got to try some Greek food, which is I think cheese, grapes, figs, and some bread, and it had to be all so goat's cheese. The bread was just bread that was really thin, that they normally they probably did use in the Olympics. And figs. It was actually my first time I actually tried figs. It was pretty good. But the most important was grapes, because Greeks had the most grapes. And yeah, I think that's it. We learnt all about Greeks on that topic, and it was really fun to learn about all the Greeks, because the only thing I learnt about before I did my topic was just that they ate grapes, and they invented things, but I learned what they invented and how did they do it, and some very good inventions that they made, and some of the really good conquerors that they had at their time.